there's a big call for stories. And the thing with stories is that they disappear off of your feed after 24 hours. So they don't appear in your news feed. You can put more stories out on your Instagram profile without worrying about overloading your followers, because they don't come up in their notifications and they're not constantly seeing stories from you in their Instagram feed. But they're a great way to actually have a little bit of fun with your brand and kind of humanize your brand on Instagram. They have a bit more of a kind of rough around the edges feel, if you like. They don't necessarily have to be completely polished to work on Instagram stories. But my advice would be that wherever possible, try and stay on brand. Because obviously, as a business platform, you are still trying to raise that brand awareness across using your Instagram stories as much as you are when you're using your Instagram newsfeed. So where you can, stay on brand. But in terms of stories, kind of, there's 4 things really that you're trying to achieve when you post stories out on Instagram. There's kind of a journey that you're trying to take your followers through. And they go through the stages of visibility, engagement, leads, and sales, ultimately. So you're trying to get yourself seen by new followers that aren't already following your page. You're trying to get engagement from followers that are seeing your stories. You're then trying to get your followers to take specific action. And then you're trying to actually close that deal. So you're trying to make that sale. And all of these things can be achieved through stories on Instagram.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? So the visibility is really about being there in stories. You have to post in stories to be visible to new followers, to build that kind of following on Instagram. And it is a great way to gain new followers because they do get to see your personality. So I would recommend posting, if you can, on a regular basis to Instagram stories. My advice would be, if you can commit to it, 1 story a day. If you can't commit to it, then commit to a particular number of stories a week. And I would probably recommend 3 as a minimum, just to make sure that you're getting seen out there on Instagram stories. So, but make sure that you commit to a strategy that you can actually follow through on, is the thing that I would recommend.
Quick question, Alison. Is there, for the Delegate Wranglers, we post probably a little bit more than that. We probably post minimum of 2 a day, maybe 3 a day sometimes, maybe 1 a day sometimes, but generally around 2 to 3 a day. Can you do it too much, or is it just if you're just doing the same types of posts? We mix ours up, so we try and make them all different.
Again, it's about those stories being engaging. So if you're putting 3 or 4 posts, stories out a day, that's fine, because like I said, they don't appear in the news feed, so you're not overloading people's Instagram notifications with your stories. They will view your stories if they choose to look at them, if that makes sense. Unless you tag somebody and then they get notified, which we'll come to in a minute. So no, you can put out as many stories as you like a day, and it's not going to actually overload, and it's not going to interfere. A lot of people make their stories into kind of so they'll put sort of 10 different stories out that all combine together to make one message, if that makes sense. So no, it's absolutely fine. It doesn't matter how many you put out. That's the joy of Instagram stories, really, is that you can put as many as you like.
There's no hard and fast rules of putting like too many out or anything like that.
No, the thing to remember is that they need to be engaging. Provided they're engaging and they're providing a message or information that people are going to find valuable, then absolutely put as many stories out as you can manage, really.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Phew.
So you're fine. And there's a number of ways that you can create those stories. You can either create them in app. So in the Instagram app, they provide templates for you, where you can actually insert your own images, where you can, they'll even have kind of templates that allow you to set up a poll with certain questions that they've already pre-populated for you. So there are a number of options there if you're quite new to stories and you're just getting used to them. You can upload a still image and create a story around that, or you can upload a video as your story clip. You can only have up to 15 seconds per story clip if it's a video. You need a video that's longer than that. You would have to create more than one story so that they're viewed one after the other, if that makes sense. It's 15 seconds per story card. If you don't want to do it in app, you can. I mean, we're all big fans of Canva, as we found out a week ago last Friday.
Massive.
You know, they have templates in there that you can quite easily edit and make your own, and then upload those into your stories. So there are quite a few options, and I'm sure there are other apps out there that will also allow you to create those kind of story templates that you can then upload.
Alison,
Just on that,
I'm going to jump straight in with a question, if you don't mind, because there's one coming from Fiona McGilvray. No, Gillivray, sorry. How do you get new followers via stories? If they're not following you, how do they see your story? This was immediately followed up by Sam Keith, who said you can hashtag and people can follow hashtag stories. But Alison, what else have you got on that one?
Can I come to that in a minute? Because we are going to talk engagement and ways to then generate new followers in the next section, if that's okay. So I will come.
We'll come back to you. Thank you.
Sorry, Neil.
Alison, I was just going to say, in Canva as well, if you're kind of subscribed to Canva, you have the option to, so if you make a graphic of something, you have the option to resize it, and it will resize it to Instagram story if you want, or whatever, you know, YouTube or Twitter or anything. Just so guys, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think is what I'm trying to say. It'll make your life easier. You know, you can you can create a graphic for Facebook, say, and then you can just click on resize, and it will resize it to Instagram story, and then it just makes your life a lot easier. You don't have to start again with everything.
Absolutely.
Just a little tip.
Absolutely, yeah, cool. Definitely. Okay, so once you've kind of decided what you're going to post in your story, Instagram have given you quite a few easy to use features within their story app that will help you to generate engagement on that story. So the idea is that once people see your story, you want them to engage in that story, because that then helps with the Instagram algorithms that we were talking about before. If people like your story, if they engage on it, if they comment on it, then obviously that is going to help with your algorithm. So the stickers range from things like creating a poll within your story that will encourage people to answer either yes or no, or whatever other options you've given them. You can use the emoji slider, which actually allows people to show you whether they say like an idea or a product that you're launching, or you can ask them how they're feeling, or how, you know, maybe the impact of the news that's coming out about the 1st of October, you know, how do people feel about the announcements that are being made. You can set a quiz. So you can ask people questions. People can also be encouraged to ask you a question via your Instagram stories. There's also now the DM me sticker, which used to be chat. Used to be called chat. It's now called DM me. But you can actually encourage people to send you a direct message based on the information that you're giving them on that Instagram story. And there's also now a new one called hashtag challenge. I don't know if anybody's seen the sticker hashtag challenge in the stories, but you can actually, Instagram have preloaded some challenges that you can get people to take part in. If you click on the hashtag challenge sticker, it will then allow you to mention. So Neil, for example, you could challenge Nick on Instagram via your story to send in a baby face photo, for example. Those are the sorts of things that they've got going on, which is, again, just a bit of a fun thing that they're trying to get people to get engaged on Instagram stories. The only unfortunate thing with the hashtag challenge is that you can't make up your own at the moment. There isn't that functionality. You can only use the challenges that they've preloaded.
Damn.
Hopefully that might come. You never know. It does say at the moment that's not available. So we'll see. They might change that so that you can create your own hashtag challenges in there. But all of those features within stories will help to boost your engagement.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Alison. I mean, we use all of those features to try and engage people. You know, how you're feeling, you know, whatever question, anything you want, really, anything where you can just get people to engage. As you say, helps your does it help your algorithm on the main grid or just on the story grid?
On everything. Yeah.
Right.
Your activity on Instagram is measured across your stories and your newsfeed, so it will help with everything.
But it's not only that. I mean, it's helping your brand, most importantly. You know, you're helping to position your brand.
Absolutely. And you know, there's nothing better either than actually getting feedback from the people that you're trying to engage with, because getting feedback from them, for example, on how they're feeling about an announcement that's been made, or you know, how they're feeling about a new product, will actually help you to understand what you then need to be posting out on your social media.
Absolutely.
You know, encouraging your target audience to ask you questions in your stories will actually give you some great content then, by providing them with the answers, because they're not the only one probably that's got that question. So if you get your audience engaged in asking you those questions, then that's great material for you to use moving forward in you know, your kind of either in your newsfeed or in new stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
My one big tip is, if you use the DM me sticker, make sure that you reply to every single DM that comes in. There are so many businesses that do make the mistake of putting some great stories out there, but they then actually don't respond and reply to the engagement that they get coming back in. So, you know, if you do have people that are engaging, that are doing what you've asked them to do on that story, then make sure you respond back to them.
Absolutely.
Tom looks like he's about to say something then.
No, I'm flicking through comments. I'm looking at everything that's coming in. I've put links to our social channel, each of our Instagram accounts on the screen, because I've already seen, I thought this would happen, but I've already seen that there are some people sharing their Instagram at usernames. So yeah, well, I've put ours on the screen. Go follow us. We'll probably do a follow for follow, and we'll talk about talk more about that in a while.
Absolutely.
Alison, can I just jump in there on the on the questions one? I don't know if it was from you or I heard it somewhere else, but I heard that if you're going to do if you're going to go live on a story, it's a good idea to do questions like ask me anything or ask me questions, you know, before, and then I think you can actually you scroll through them while you're on the live. I think through the questions, something like that. I heard there was. Sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, it is, absolutely, and it is just great. You know, great content, great material for either going live or for, like I say, posting out in your newsfeed. But yes, you can do that. You can respond to those questions live in that newsfeed, then in that story. So yeah, absolutely.
You don't have any dead air when you're there on your own, like I was last Friday on Facebook.
You
when
weren't.
Dom left me.
Well, let's just briefly talk about that, Neil, because that's actually not what happened. So
no, let's move on.
Neil has access to the to a new feature on Facebook, which allows him to bring other guests into a live stream when he goes live direct off his phone. However, it is buggy as hell, and 3 or 4 times now I think we've tried, haven't we, Neil? And we haven't had a successful one yet where it's actually worked entirely first time.
So we've had one, yeah, that's it. Anyway, really sorry, Alison.
All right, no problem. So we've also got, moving back to kind of those engagement tools, we've also got the hashtags, and hashtags are so important in Instagram stories, because they are, we were saying kind of, or Don was saying a minute ago about, you know, somebody had replied in the feed about them being a really good way for people to find your stories, and they are one of the biggest ways that people will find your stories if they're not already following you on Instagram. So it is so important that you include those hashtags in there. Now, if you use the hashtag sticker, you can only include one hashtag, and your editing capability of that hashtag sticker is very limited. You know, you can tap it a few times and it will change color. It might change the background color of the sticker, but that's about as much as you're going to get. However, you can add up to 10 hashtags using the type feature in your Instagram story. So I would recommend, again, stick to the 5 that we suggested in the last Instagram training that we did a couple of 10 days ago, but my recommendation would then be for you to hide most of them, because there's nothing worse than creating a great image that you're putting out on your story and then you just plaster it in hashtags, and it ends up looking too busy, too messy, and people can't actually read what your original story is all about. So there's a couple of ways to do that. There's a couple of ways that you can hide them. If you're putting a poll or something like that out onto your story, you can actually group all your hashtags, clump them all together, and actually hide them under your poll sticker. so that you can't see them, but they're still there.
Sneaky.
Say that again, just so people absolutely get that.
So if you're creating something like a poll or using any other sticker on an Instagram story, you can actually, if you just drag your sticker out of the way for a minute, place all of your hashtags one on top of the other by moving them into a big clumped up pile, and then you just move your sticker back over the top. So those hashtags are still in your story and they're still discoverable by Instagram, but they're not actually visual. They're not actually being able to be seen on that story.
That's a great tip.
And you can do the same with at mentions as well. You can hide those under any stickers or any other images that you're putting out onto your story. Can all hide your hashtags. The other thing you can do is you can actually, if you've got, for example, I'm going to hold this up because this may well be an Instagram story that you're putting out. So it's got a pink background. What you can actually do is you can change the text color of your typed hashtag using the eyedropper. You make it the same color as your background, and therefore the hashtag will disappear out of sight, but it will still be there.
Yeah,
another sneaky way.
So 2 top tips to hide your hashtags in stories is either hide them under a sticker or change the color of the text to match your background and then just drop them in out of the way.
I've got one as well, Alison, that my son taught me. I'm not going to claim it myself, but he taught me. It was like you say, right when you're doing a hashtag or at and tagging somebody in, write it in your text, and then to make it really small, just use the slider on the left-hand side of the screen.
Yeah.
And then it makes it as small as possible. That's really, it's a really good little tip.
Absolutely.
Because I can't pinch it. I have fat fingers. I can't pinch it.
I've got really long fingernails, and so I can't pinch really small either. So it is difficult.
It doesn't go complete. It doesn't go down to absolutely nothing. It just goes small enough that you can cover it.
Yes, exactly.
I've just done it here just to see. How small it goes.
I'm testing it all out as we go along.
I'm doing this as we go.
Love it. But like we said before, every principle that we spoke about in the last training when we did Instagram applies with hashtags. They are discoverable. Make sure that it's relevant. Make sure that when people search for that hashtag, if they come to your story, they're actually going to want to read it, going to want to engage with it because it's something that they've been looking for. So just because it's a story, don't again start going mad with shoving random hashtags in there. You still want those hashtags to be relevant because you still are trying to achieve that engagement at the end of the day. That's the whole point of using hashtags.
For our industry, I mean, the bog standard one that everybody uses, and I use it all the time, is event profs.
Yeah.
Is that something we should literally be using all the time?
Yeah, Event Profs and Event Profs UK are the two that I use.
Yeah, should we be using them all the time? Do you think that all the time?
Personally, I mean, for those of you that know, we do a lot of work for Venues of Excellence for their, social media, and we use.
Hello, Mandy.
Yeah, Mandy. With Event Profs on all of their Instagram posts, because that is the industry that we're aiming at. That is who we want to engage on our posts. That's who we want to get our message out to. So there's no better way than doing that than using the hashtags that those event industry experts are going to be following.
Perfect. Cool.
Okay. The second way to make your story discoverable, if you like, by people who aren't necessarily following you, is also to tag a location in your story. Because again, if people are then searching for, a wedding venue in Buckinghamshire, if you've tagged the location that will fit that search criteria, then that story will appear in that location's public page, and it will also appear in search results. So again, you can hide that location in exactly the same way as we hide the hashtag. So you can shove it under a sticker or chain, but you have to use the location sticker. So you can only put one location in.
I think this is a massive tip for venues because, you don't always have to be aiming at, event profs and things. It could be people who are just arriving off a plane into your city, and they might just search literally hotels, London, or whatever. So make sure you put that on, guys. All you hotels and venues, you should definitely be putting your venues on everything, I would say. really.
Absolutely, yeah. Always use a location sticker, and that's the same for the newsfeed as well. Always include your location when you're posting to your newsfeed, because again, those newsfeed posts will then show up on the location public page.
Yeah.
So
any questions? Sorry, Alison. Any questions in there, Dom?
Do you know what? I'm not even looking, Neil. I'm playing around with Instagram stories.
Right, I'm gonna have a look. So I've just seen one from Mark Vater. I think I know the answer to this one. How do you put the dots in the lines underneath having hashtags? Dots in to have the lines underneath before having the hashtags. I think that's referring to a main post, I guess.
Yeah, that's referring back to the newsfeed post we were talking about earlier. And on your phone, you will have to press to bring up the number keyboard to be able to press enter, because on your phone, when you've got your keyboard open in Instagram, it will default to having the hashtag where your enter button usually is. So if you press the numbers, you'll bring up your keyboard, you'll have the return key or the enter key, and you literally press enter, full stop, enter, full stop, enter, full stop, until you've created as many gaps as you want, really.
And I discovered an app, everyone, called Insta Spacer. And basically it allows you to, normally when you hit enter, it'll put a dot in between each line. If you use Interspacer, what you do is you copy and paste it in, and then you copy that back in, and you don't have the dots, which is a really cool thing, because most things have the dots on them, don't they, in between the lines and things. So that was I only found that a couple of days ago. It's really cool.
Fab, brilliant. Yeah, so that would be great to use as well. Yeah. The other thing you could do is put, rather than just full stops, if you wanted to put some an emoji in the line, just to kind of brighten things up, cheer things up, whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of just a full stop, it'll just add a bit of personality to your post, but it'll create the same effect, if that makes sense.
Rob Boren Fish has just asked a question. Are there any scheduling platforms that you can add the location to, as I don't think we can do that on Hootsuite that we currently use for scheduling our posts?
You can do it on the Instagram Creator Studio.
Oh, you talked about that yesterday, last time.
Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah, it's actually called Facebook Creator Studio.
Yes, it's Facebook Creator Studio.
Yeah,
but it's got Instagram function
in it. Yeah, so you can do Facebook and Instagram through that same platform, but in that you can add the location there. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Fantastic. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, and then you've got, sorry, just quickly going back to the stickers. The last really important one is the @mention sticker. So again, you can use a sticker to @mention so that somebody gets notified that you've put a story out that mentions them. So, for example, Neil, this morning, I got a notification to say that the Delegate Wranglers had mentioned us in their story, which was fab. That then allows me to go in, I can share it to my story as well from that notification, and that's a really nice way of getting engagement. Now, using the @mention sticker, you can only @mention one, but you can type in @the Delegate Wranglers, for example, and it will create a tag. So it does work through using the type tool, just as well as it works with the sticker.
It's crazy, isn't it? I wonder why they only let you have one, but you can do it that way. It seems mad.
I think it's a formatting thing, to be fair. I think the platform can probably only cope with one type of format for each of the stickers that you're using. So yeah, it's probably that, I would imagine. But being able to do it using the type tool, just it's fairly straightforward anyway. So
yeah, cool.
Is Dom still playing, or has he got more questions for me?
No.
I'm just flicking backwards and forwards between different things. I'm just waiting. Carly just asked if I saw her question earlier, and I didn't. So, Carly, I have asked you to repost that if you wouldn't mind, just so that I can have a look.
There's a question from Alexandra there, Dom, right at the bottom.
Why am I not seeing that? Oh, yeah. Do the algorithms not pick up on outside software posting for you and penalize you for it?
Well, they used to. There is a belief now that they are moving away from penalising people from using external schedulers. I haven't got any proof that is the case. However, our advice has always been at IMC Pro Solutions that we don't use and we don't recommend using external scheduling tools. Every platform except LinkedIn has its own internal scheduling tools. So we always recommend that people use the tools that the platforms give them, because they are going to be the tools that the platforms look upon in the most, look more kindly upon, rather than using an external source. Yeah.
Carly's question was, when you're using a hashtag, for example, if you post hashtag event profs, how does your post get seen on that public page?
It will be seen based on, it gets seen through a search ultimately. So if someone searches that hashtag, it will be seen. If someone follows that hashtag, there is the possibility, and I'm not saying that every post you put out with Event Profs UK on it will appear in someone's kind of notifications or newsfeed, but if they follow that hashtag, there is the possibility that it will automatically be generated into their newsfeed because they follow the hashtag. On the public page, it appears as a newsfeed in itself. But it will be in with everybody else's posts that also hashtag event profs. So you need to make sure that those posts are engaging so that they stand out when people get to that public page, if that makes sense.
Yes. Alex asked, does Instagram have an internal tool? It does. It kind of comes back to what we were saying just now. You can use Facebook Creator Studio, and there is both an app and obviously you can use it through desktop as well, that allows you to do a whole load of scheduling within Facebook and or YouTube and or Instagram.
Yeah. And in that Creator Studio, you can also do things like reply to DMs. You can read comments from Facebook and Instagram. So it is kind of a place for keeping the both platforms together as well, if you're using both platforms at the same time. The only thing you can't do is publish Instagram stories from Creator Studio. You can't schedule stories for Instagram.
No.
But you can schedule stories for Facebook. So I think that will probably come.
And you can use I use Social Pilot, and that will give you reminders. It doesn't schedule it for you, but it will send you a reminder with the actual graphic and the text to post up onto them. So that's as near as you can get without getting the Creator Studio, I guess. I had another quick question for you, Alison. Assuming that your algorithm is going quite well, do you have to constantly keep it up? Is it this like a never-ending conveyor belt that you have to stay on with Instagram to kind of keep your stuff so it's always coming into the feeds and things like this? Is that what you have to do?
Yeah, unfortunately it's not like kind of getting past the winning post and then stopping and celebrating and not having to carry on. It is a case of, once you get there, you have to maintain it, because as soon as you stop, your engagement will fall, and therefore your rating in terms of the algorithms will also drop as well. And the algorithms are constantly changing, constantly updating. So you have to be on top of everything in terms of the social media platform. So it's not just about feed, it's also about stories, it's also about going live. There's lots of different things that they look at. So
the very secrets of these algorithms as well. No, everybody claims to know them, but nobody really does.
No. And even if you did know them, they're so quickly out of date because they're so quickly updated and changing that you're kind of working on historic information anyway. So
it's changing.
Definitely.
I will just for Alex and for those that are wondering, let me just put this up on the screen. I have got Facebook Creator Studio. Well, it's called Creator Studio, and it is accessed through your Facebook account. But obviously, you can then connect it to LinkedIn. It says try now, although mine is already connected. And through here, I can add to my story. I can't schedule it. I can choose the page that I want to control. And then I can add a photo or add a text story to it from here, but you can't schedule that. What you can do from here is add a ton of content into a content library, and then you can create posts and content from that content library. And it's a really handy little tool. So I would advise everyone get on Facebook Creator Studio, which if you just type in Facebook Creator Studio in Google, it'll come up with the right link for you. and then it's automatically connected to multiple pages, to all of the pages that you manage, and then you can do that across all, or you can just manage one. But it's a really handy tool, and there's an app, and it does work.
Okay, I'm conscious of the time.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
And we haven't highlights yet. One more very quick tip in terms of your story as a way to create great content is you can share your newsfeed posts to your stories. So in your newsfeed, sorry, Dom, go on.
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh. In your newsfeed, underneath each post, you've got a little icon that looks like an aeroplane. If you click on that, you can either send it directly to somebody who's in your followers list, or you can add it to your story. Adding a newsfeed post to your story creates a clickable link through to your newsfeed. So if you've got somebody who has found your story who isn't a current follower, who has found your story through either hashtags or the location, then enabling them to click through to your newsfeed will encourage them to look at the other posts that you've got on there, and hopefully to become and convert them into a raving fan. So they are a great way to kind of cross promote your content and to encourage people to follow you, because they actually come through and see your entire grid rather than seeing your story. Okay,
great.
So that right. Highlights are amazing. They sit basically at the above your newsfeed on your profile page, and they are a way of keeping your stories available to your followers once the 24-hour time period has passed, because stories only last for 24 hours. Once that 24 hours has passed, they're no longer available to any of your followers. You've got access to them in your archive on Instagram, but your followers can no longer see them unless you add them to your highlights. A really easy way to add to your highlights is when you're posting the story. Once you've selected post story, you will then get the option of adding it to highlights. And you can either add it to an existing highlights folder, or you can create a new one for that story, depending on how you're going to organize your highlights. The other way that you can do it is to do it retrospectively by going to your profile, your grid page, where your highlights are. On the far left, you'll see a plus button and an add or a new, and you can basically click on that and it will enable you to create a new highlights folder ultimately. You can have as many highlights as you like, and each highlight can contain up to 100 stories. Okay, so that's a great place for storing a lot of stories for people to look back on once the 24 hours has passed. And for kind of the industry that we're looking at now, I mean, they might want to kind of group their stories together as highlights. So if they're a venue maybe that offers different services like weddings, conferences, spa days, then they might want to have separate highlights for the stories that relate to those different parts of the business. And they're a really nice way to highlight kind of your brand and what you do. You can edit that highlights profile picture, and again I would recommend trying to keep that profile picture that you put in that highlight on brand. So try and make sure that it's either got your brand colors, or that it's got a logo, or that it follows your theme for your newsfeed, because obviously it does show on that profile and it does show above that newsfeed. So if you have chosen a theme, then try and make it work so that it fits. If you don't edit your profile picture, Instagram will use the first story that was added to that highlight, and it will kind of pull the picture through from the story. And depending on what it was, it's not always particularly clear.
And it's round, isn't it, as well? So it's a bit of an awkward shape to show a photograph.
It is round, yeah. It's quite easy to highlight. You simply open the highlights folder. There's 3 dots in the bottom right hand corner. If you click on that, you'll get the option where it says edit highlight. If you open that, you'll go into a very small editing page where you can then edit the profile photo, and you can rename it as well.
Lauren has just asked, is it right you can only add to is it right you can only add to an existing highlight with a current story, i.e. you can only add old stories when setting up a new highlight?
I believe that is the case, yes.
Yeah,
But
I was just rereading that. Yeah, I understand. Okay, we'll go with Alison's answer.
I will double check and come back to that if I am wrong in the wrap up that I send over to Neil. But yes, I believe.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look at it.
Priya asked, can you add someone else's story to your own newsfeed or story?
You can share someone else's story to your story, yes, if they've tagged you in it.
But not if they haven't.
Don't believe so, no.
You could screen grab it. I mean, it's a bit coarse, but you could screen grab it and post it to your own story, I guess.
Instagram don't make it particularly easy to share other people's content.
No.
No, I mean, sharing kind of newsfeed posts is very difficult. You have to do it through an app like Repost. So a story that hasn't mentioned you can send to other people directly using the aeroplane, but you can't actually share it to your story unless you've got an app mentioning it. And
it's just mad, isn't it?
Protect people's content or something, I don't know. But you could do a screenshot of it, and all I would recommend then is that you make sure that you app mention whoever you've grabbed it from, and possibly get the permission first by direct messaging them maybe and asking if they'd mind if you kind of shared it around, which I'm sure they won't.
Most people don't mind.
No, absolutely not. It's it's a great way of getting more engagement, really, isn't it, and more followers. So yeah. One big tip to make sure that your stories are available to you once they've gone past the 24-hour is to make sure that you've got save to archive switched on in your archives folder on Instagram.
Go into it as we speak.
Right, so, where is this?
Go to your menu burger in your profile. So the 3 lines that appear in the top right-hand corner when you're on your profile page.
Yes.
You'll find there's a button there that says archive.
There is.
If you click into archive, at the top, you'll see that there's a little arrow next to the word archive. You can choose to change your settings to either stories or posts. Make sure they're switched on for archive in stories and posts. So select one of them and then go to the 3 little dots in the top right-hand corner and toggle save archive.
Interesting. I've never done that. It was defaulted to on, so perhaps that's what
it does for everybody. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I have had especially if you've got accounts that are managed by teams, if you're taking over an account from somebody or whatever, just go in and check, make sure that they haven't switched it off. There's nothing worse than losing all of that content once it's gone. The other option, obviously, is that you save everything that you put up to stories to your device, but it's far easier just to save it in the archive because then it saves you that menu being used. Also in Instagram archive, they have introduced fairly recently a tool called Memories. When you open your archive, if on that day, either a year or 2 years ago or whatever, you put a post or a story out, it will show up at the bottom of the page in Memories, and it will allow
mine's just come up.
It will allow you to then reshare that, so you could do like a throwback post if you like to this time last year. Or brilliant. What is that?
It's some kind of food, some kind of dessert 3 years ago.
Brilliant.
There you go.
If you haven't posted anything out on that day, Memories just won't be there. So don't think you haven't got that feature. It only shows up if you posted anything on that day to remind.
But if everybody's listening to what you're saying, Alison, they'll be posting every day, so they'll have something every day.
There'll be some memories coming up this time next year.
We'll be checking. Yeah.
For those that I'm just going to jump in and do this because it's useful to see. I'm just going to put my display on screen at the moment. This is where the archive is. So from my profile here, go into the archive, and then I can go into settings and then just check that these things are enabled.
Yeah.
But that's where you find it. Really
nice.
Cool.
And my kind of last top tip with your highlights really is that when you rename them, you are given 15 characters for the name of your highlight. but only 10 will show in your profile.
Okay.
So if you can, try and keep the name of your highlights to 10 characters or less, because it will just pop it off.
Brilliant info. Love it.
Okay, so yeah, try and make sure it's 10 characters or less.
Fab.
Okay, I am conscious that it's 2:30. Have you got any whistle-stop tour of stories and highlights?
I don't know if we got anything else, Neil. I can't immediately see anything.
Nope. Let's move on.
Okay. Okay. Live. We briefly mentioned live in the training that we did a couple of weeks ago, and Instagram stories is where live is at on Instagram ultimately. So a couple of bits I will talk about in terms of going live in stories is your live broadcasting is limited to an hour, so make sure that you plan what you want to go out with on Instagram live, because you are limited to an hour. Once you have gone live, which is quite easy to do, it is literally a case of open up your Instagram page, click on the camera in the top left hand corner, and then just swipe to go live, toggle along at the bottom, and you'll select the live option, and then you literally start recording, and it will broadcast it live for you. But once the live video has ended, it is no longer visible in the app, so it does disappear unless you share a replay to IGTV. Okay, so my biggest tip would be, if you want people to be able to access that live later, then share the replay to IGTV. And you literally get that option once you finish.
Because it just disappears. It just disappears, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It vanishes.
Yeah.
Now, when you are sharing that replay to IGTV, there is no option to trim or edit your video. So what happens in that video, if you choose to upload it, it goes out onto IGTV. So there are no editing options. Okay, so just to let you know about that. But you can invite friends to join you on the live. And I know you and Don were talking about doing that on Facebook. And it is an option that is available on Instagram. So you can invite people to join you during the live. So you might do things like maybe collaborate with an industry leader. You might, if you're brave enough, get a customer to talk about their experience of working with you, and you know, their experience of using kind of your venue. You might choose to interview a colleague, something along those lines, but they can basically come in and join you on that live.
Quick question, Alison. So when you're doing that live, so say I went live and I brought you in and we were chatting, do I have to do anything to ready the feature for people to send in questions or comments or anything, or does that just happen automatically? Can people just join in the conversation?
Yeah, that's there basically, and you just receive the comments and interact with the audience as you go along.
Okay, fine. You don't have to enable anything. You just literally go live, bring the person in, and
No, they should just be able to join. And it should all flow swimmingly.
Yeah, in
Not that we
theory.
know what it does, but it should flow swimmingly.
I think Dom's going live now on the other line there. I can see him in the background.
I can see, he's doing something, bless him. So in terms of the live, my recommendation would be, I mean, some people are brilliant and completely natural at live, and they can literally pick up their phone, switch it on, and they go live. They do one take and it's amazing. But in terms of a business and in terms of a brand, I think my recommendation would be to always have a plan of what exactly it is that you want to cover, what it is that you want to do, because what you want to do is you need to make sure that that live broadcast gives value to your audience. Ultimately, think back to the strategy that we were talking about right at the beginning in terms of getting your customers from seeing you on LinkedIn to actually seeing you on Instagram, to actually buying from you. Everything that you put out should have that purpose in mind. So planning that live session will actually ensure that they get the most value out of that live broadcast, whether it's a 2-minute broadcast or a 20-minute broadcast or an hour broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, I did that just to mess around just then, but Alex made a point earlier that there's got to be strategy to all of this. You can't just go. There needs to be strategy around it. You need to plan it, and you need to plan in the same way that I would advise anyone to not just go live to a certain extent, but you've got to have a rough idea of what you're going to say, and at least know that it's part of what you're doing and what you want to achieve.
You need to promote it as well, I guess. Otherwise, you're just going to get the people who happen to be watching. Is that right, Alison?
Well, if your followers are on the app as you go live, they will get a notification to say that you're going live in the app. So the idea there is to use your insights to try and find out when are your audience most likely to be online. And to kind of, yes, you can publish the fact that you will be going live at a particular time, you know, and if, for example, you are doing an interview or a collaboration with an industry expert that you want people to see at the time, then absolutely promote it. But use your insights to work out when your audience are most likely to be online and choose that point in time to schedule.
I suppose the question is then whether you do something it's either impromptu, but it can't really be impromptu because you're best warming people up to it. And then the other thing is, you know, maybe your best it's slightly different, I guess, because one could be a live interview, but otherwise, if it's just you talking to camera to promote something, you're probably best recording it and putting it up as a story, I guess, because at least it's going to live there for 24 hours rather than just going straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I think both have their place, to be fair. You know, lives are great for capturing something that's happening in the moment as well. So, you know, if you've got an event going on, or if you've got you know, like something that has just been announced and you want to be one of the first people to get out there on your social media, then absolutely, rather than messing around with doing the video, editing it, putting it into a story, you know, go live, absolutely, you know, and that's a great opportunity. But if it is something that isn't particularly maybe time sensitive, or that you want to give more of a polished look and feel to, then absolutely record it first and upload that as a story. So I think it kind of depends on what message you're trying to get across, and you know what the content of that video is going to be. Really, would be
good to do both. Good to do a mix, isn't it, as well? You know, mix things up.
Definitely.
Right, we are at an hour.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Alison, that you wanted to go through?
No, I think I have covered what I had in my notes on a whistle-stop tour of stories and highlights.
I'm very useful.
See you next week, Alison. See you next week.
I am quite happy to answer any questions in the Delegate Wranglers group afterwards. If people want to keep chucking questions in there in the comments, I'm quite happy to answer if you want.
I can see an ask Alison section coming up here.
We could do that. That's fine.
No, that's been amazing, Alison. It's been absolutely amazing. We like Don said, we could go on and on.
Version of Dear Deirdre.
Yeah.
You know, our very own agony aunt.
Yeah. Any last comments, Dom? I just noticed
there's a ton of comments in here. I'm not going to try and go back through them all because there's a little bit of conversation happening, which is great, which is people in the group helping others from within the group, and that's kind of what this is all about. It's to trigger those conversations, because we don't come into this, Alison obviously does, but on certain subjects we don't come into this knowing everything, and there are other people in the group that are very good for certain bits of information, and based on their experience of using stories or Instagram for business or highlights or whatever it is. So it's really nice to see these conversations carrying on. And long may that continue. But please, if you do need Alison, then all of our Instagram names have been up on the screen. I am at Streamit. Neil is at the Delegate Wranglers, and Alison is at IMC_girls in pink. Please follow us. We will follow you all back. Let's do our best to help spread the word for each of us and boost everybody in the social world.
Can I also just say as well, on Alison's behalf, you know, this is what Alison and Verity was on a couple of weeks ago. You know, they do this for a living. So, you know, if you need any assistance, or, you know, any of if your company, you know, if there's some new team members or team members who are not clued up, you know, who need to know about it, please contact Alison or Verity. You know, they're really wide ranging knowledge. What else do you cover, Alison? cover a number of things, don't you?
Ultimately, our top 4 are LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So they're the top 4 platforms. But we've also got kind of knowledge around YouTube, Pinterest. We're trying to get excited about TikTok. But
or maybe not.
Yeah.
Don't knock it.
Ultimately, it's the 4 top platforms, really. So
I've got to tell you, my kids nearly had a fit when I told them that I'd registered the Delegate Wranglers on TikTok, just in case. They were like, "You what?" So I haven't done anything with it. So you can follow me if you want, but I'm too scared. Anyway, Alison, no, so yeah, please contact Alison for any of your needs on any of those subjects. I guess you do it one-to-one, or you can do it in groups as well. And
yeah. I mean, we can do one-to-one coaching, we can do ad hoc training, we've got power hours that people can book in for just to kind of brainstorm stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's loads of options.
Fantastic.
Then please get in touch with Alison at IMC_girls in pink. Alison, thank you very much for joining us for part 2. It's a huge amount of time you've put into preparing for this, but also into the content itself. And myself, Neil, and literally everybody that watches these videos now and in future is very, very grateful that you've done that. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, everybody give the guys a follow as well, because
Yes,
they're
please
fantastic,
do.
and you're gonna learn stuff from them. So, Alison, thank you once again.
Thanks, Alison.
See you next
we
week.
will see you. We'll see you very soon.
See you, Alison. So, Dom, there we go.
Done.
What have you learned, Dom?
Look, I mean, we said,
What have you
right,
learned?
you and I said before this that we would keep to an hour, and we're an hour and 7 minutes. And I know we always talk at the beginning, but we are trying our best to do this. But equally, all the time people are asking questions, then it's clearly providing value. And ultimately, that's why you and I started this show, right?
Absolutely, yes. I think as well, we started out them to upskill and to maybe do some entertaining stuff.
Yeah.
And I know we did a couple of them, but there's so many topics and so many things that we can do with the upskilling.
Yeah.
And particularly useful at the moment that we have been sticking to that. I mean, we are still looking for looking to get feedback from you guys. If there's anything you want to see, believe me, we've got plenty of topics coming through. But if there's anything you want to see, please drop me a line, and we'll see if we can get someone on the show, or you could come on the show yourself. We're always looking for new angles and new things that people might want to learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. We are completely. And again, it kind of reiterates the fact that this isn't a show that me and Neil do just for the sake of it. We do this because we're just trying to provide a bit of information, a bit of entertainment to people, but it needs to provide value. The long-term benefit here is value. So if there are specific things that you want us to cover, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just events related. If there's just something that you would like us to cover that you think everybody else would benefit from, then just get in touch with Neil and put the idea to him, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, we were thinking about Dom's gonna go mad though now. I was thinking about doing one where we could talk about some tips, top tips about various things that we've learned, either in the industry specific, like to what Dom's learned about what he does, or what I've learned about me, but very much an open-ended one where we could bring you guys in. We could just drop in some nice little, bite-sized tips, and let's do a tip exchange. Let's share it.
As we're talking about this, I know you mentioned it to me before, but I've just thought of something which I'll put to you afterwards. I'm absolutely not going to say this in public, but I'll put this idea to you, and then it would be really nice to get lots of the regulars that we have on the show kind of taking part in this. But I've got an idea around that. And the other thing, just while we're talking about this particular subject, is a couple of people mentioned on the post that you put out about this last week, about this this coming next, or what's coming next in the shows. A couple of something around video and what I do, and I'm more than happy to do something on video, but it's a very, very generic topic that I could literally talk for days about. So if there are specific questions that you've got about production, video production in general, if there's something specific that you want us to talk about on this show, then I'm more than happy to put together some content for that. But I just want to be really clear what it is that people want to know.
I think, you know what, Dom? I think you could actually do a show about how you put this show out, because I think people are often commenting and often saying to me, how do you guys do that? How do you guys make that show? And I take all the credit, of course. Then No, I don't. I pass it. I say,
Glory
look, it's
hunter.
Dom. Yeah, no, I don't. I say it's Dom. It's not me. I'll put you in touch with Dom. But you know, all the graphics and all the things, all this, it doesn't just happen by magic. It's a lot of planning. So maybe you could do a show about, I don't know if you want to give away your secrets, but the way you do it and stuff like that. That might be a good show to make their shows. Somebody commented on here, it's so slick the way you guys run this show and everything.
Yeah,
That was
I
me
actually
again.
saw that comment. I saw that right at the beginning. It was a very kind thing to say. This is what we do. This is how we produce events. This is how we're producing events virtually. How we normally produce events in the physical world. We've just adapted what we do and the techniques that we use to produce those in the virtual world at the moment. So I have to share examples of work that we do all of the time, and this is always a good example. This is how we produce stuff. Being able to bring people in remotely and put graphics on screen and turn it into a more of a production is why we're here. And I'm more than happy to give a bit of information away, but at the same time, it's my business, and I'm not going to tell you everything.
And Sam Douglas. Hi, Sam. Has just said definitely be up for a Dom demo. Let's call it a Domo.
No, let's not.
Yeah, let's have a Domo next week. Maybe there's something we could do though, Dom. Maybe there's something we could do to show, to show what goes into putting on the show, promoting it, making it, producing it. All the things that go on behind the scenes and things.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. And actually, there are some things around video that I know have come up before, which I think we can cover. Not least of which is being able to schedule going live on Facebook, for example, or schedule going live on YouTube. Like the functionality that we use on that side to make sure that this goes out at a regular time each week and it's carrying all of the information that we need it to carry. Those sorts of things I can really easily cover off and actually do have genuine use for other people. So yeah, there are elements of it that I'm happy to give away.
I've had a good idea. I'll talk to you about it off air, Dom.
Okay.
So
excellent.
it'll come to you guys, so don't worry about it. Yeah, not being secretive, but it's a good little idea on this. Okay, so good. Anyway, let's just
we really should go.
Just let me tell you about next week. We have got Tuesday, the 28th of July, we've got Kate Parright and Becky Whitaker. The things clients still want to hear from salespeople right now. So that's going to be a really good interactive show about basically some sales techniques, given the current climate. Also, guys, please set your alarms for tomorrow, 7 o'clock in the evening on Twitter. Head over to the Delegate Wranglers Twitter page, and you'll see some graphics from us, which will pose a question each time, and then you can reply to it, comment, and let's get a really good professional business conversation going on. Absolutely. There. We don't want massive rants. It's not a place for rants. We want, solid conversations on there about the current climate and what we can do and what's bugging us, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So that's tomorrow at 7 o'clock, live on Twitter at the Delegate Wranglers. Otherwise, we will be back here next Tuesday, 1:30, talking with the girls from Selling Savvy. Thank you very much for joining us today. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.